So in this video, we are going to be solving some past paper questions which are actually yearly examination, and let's see how it works for us. This paper is 2016, May, June, and variant 2. So let's begin. Question 1 says, which row correctly identifies the gas? So it is just about the test of a gas. If you remember, the test for chlorine is actually a damp litmus paper, but it is bleached. So this is wrong. Chlorine actually bleaches the litmus papers. Ammonia is damp litmus paper, and then it turns damp litmus papers into blue. So it's not red, it should turn into blue because ammonia is a basic gas. Oxygen is not tested with a lime water. Lime water is used for carbon dioxide gas. Sulfur dioxide gas is actually tested with acidified potassium manganate 7, and the change is that it turns purple to colorless because sulfur dioxide is a good reducing agent. Let's go to the other question. It says a student plans 2 experiments. Find the concentration of a solution of sodium hydroxide, which is an alkali, by titration with dilute hydrochloric acid, which is obviously an acid, HCl. And then experiment 2, find the rate of the reaction between pieces of calcium carbonate and dilute hydrochloric acid by measuring the volume of gas given off. If I'm not wrong, the gas would be carbon dioxide gas. A flask is provided. Which other apparatus is needed? So if I'm not wrong, for the first experiment it's titration, and for the second experiment it is actually a rate of reaction. So let's see. For first experiment you need a balance. Why would you need a balance? Because both are aqueous solutions, so you don't need a balance. So option A is wrong. For the option B, it says burette and pipette, which makes sense because it is indeed titration. Experiment 2 says balance for calcium carbonate measurement, measuring cylinder to perhaps add the dilute hydrochloric acid, and thermometer, but there is no gas syringe. So where is the gas syringe? So option B is also wrong. Burette and pipette makes sense. Gas syringe and clock, yeah, it makes sense. So this is right. When we talk about like option D, why do we need a gas syringe for titration? So experiment 1 was actually titration. We don't need a gas syringe for that. Question 3 says, Q is a pure sample of substance that has a single RF value 0.9. In the chromatogram shown, which letter represents Q? So it's a pure sample. It means on the chromatogram it should give you only one spot. So A is a mixture because it has 2 spots. B is pure. C is also pure. D is also pure. When we talk about 0.9 of RF, it is almost near the solvent front because 0.9 means almost 9 out of 10. So if we look at option B, it is almost 0.5 and option D is almost 0.6. While option C is 0.9, so C for cat is the answer. Let's do question 4. It says, which statement about the isotopes of bromine is correct? They are atoms with the same number of electrons and different number of protons. No. Isotopes have same proton but different neutron. Neutrons, do they have the same number of neutrons? No, sorry. They don't have the same number of neutron. Option C says they have the same number of protons and the same chemical properties. Yes, because chemical properties are linked with electrons and isotopes have the same electrons. Option D says protons and the same physical properties. No, sorry, because physical properties are linked with atomic masses, which are governed by the neutron number. So D is also wrong. C for cat is again the answer. Question 5 says, compound Z is made from element X and element Y. Compound Z is a good conductor of electricity when molten, but not when solid. So if I'm not wrong, it is a property of ionic substances, because ionic substances conduct electricity when they are molten, but not when they are solid, because they have a thing called ionic lattice. Let's see. Which statement is correct? Compound Z has strong forces of attraction between electrons and positive ions. Electrons and positive ions is a concept of metals. I don't think that it is a metal because it's a compound. A metal is not a compound, a metal is pure element. So A is wrong. Compound Z has a strong forces of attraction between negative ions and positive ions. Exactly what we use in ionic bonds. So yeah, option B is correct because it shows ionic bonding. Element X and Y are both metals. No. If they were both metals, they do not make compounds because a metal cannot make a compound with another metal. Element X and Y are both non-metals, so it would have been covalent. And covalent compounds do not conduct electricity. So B for ball. Question 6. Copper wire is used to complete an electrical circuit. Then let's talk about it. What happens in the copper wire? Electrons move along the wire to the negative terminal. No, sorry. Electrons are negative. They go to the positive terminal. Electrons move along the wire to the positive terminal. Positive ions move to the blah 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 terminal. Positive ions don't move at all. Electrons move along the wire to the positive terminal. Positive ions stay in position. Yeah, that is correct. C for cat. Which statement shows that graphite and diamond are different forms of the same element carbon? So both graphite and diamond have giant molecular structures. No, it doesn't tell us about the element. It tells us about the structure only. So not A, because statement A is only concerned with the structure, not with the element. Complete combustion of equal masses of graphite and diamond produces equal masses of carbon dioxide. Yeah, because it is connecting the idea that carbon makes carbon dioxide gas, and that is connecting with carbon. Graphite and diamond have different melting points. That is again a physical property, not connected with the presence of carbon. So it's a physical property, not a chemical nature. So again, C is wrong. Graphite conducts electricity, diamond does not. Again, that is a physical property, not connected with the chemical identity. Ethene C2H4 is a covalent compound with simple molecular structure. Which statement about ethene is correct? Ethene is a liquid at room temperature and pressure. Maybe, maybe not. Ethene conducts electricity. Not, definitely not, because ethene is a covalent compound. One ethene molecule contains 16 protons. We'll have to check that. So if I'm not wrong, there are 2 carbons connected with 4 hydrogens. So there are 2 carbons with 4 hydrogens. Each carbon has 6 protons. So 12 protons because of the carbons, and each hydrogen has 1 proton. So 12 plus 4 is 16. So yeah, statement C is indeed true. The total number of shared pair of electron in ethene is 5. Let's find it out. There is a double bond between the carbon atoms and 4 single bonds between carbon and each hydrogen. So there is a total of 2 plus 4 pairs. Not 5 pairs, it is actually 6 pairs of electrons. 2 between the carbon atoms and 4 with the hydrogens. So statement D is also wrong. An organic compound has the molecular formula C8H16O4. What is the empirical formula of the compound? So the molecular formula is given, and the empirical is being asked. So 8, 16, 4. The simplest ratio would be 1, 4, 2. C2H4O1. So C2H4O1 is option A. Question 10 says, compound P is the only substance formed when 2 volumes of ammonia gas, which means 2 ammonias, react with 1 volume of carbon dioxide gas plus 1 CO2. So let's see. It means there has to be 2 nitrogens. It means it has to be 6 hydrogens. It has to have 1 carbon. It has to have 2 oxygens. So let's see. Option A has CO2. Yes. It has 2 nitrogens and indeed 6 hydrogens. So option A seems fine to me. Option B seems a little wrong because I wanted 6 hydrogen and option B has only 4 hydrogen, so it's wrong. Option C again has 8 hydrogen, which I cannot afford because it says only 1 product was made, so it has to have 6 hydrogens from 2 ammonias. Option D says again 8 hydrogen, and it also says 3 oxygen, again wrong. So option A for apple is right. So guys, we're continuing from question 11 of the same 2016 paper, which is summer. It says gases can diffuse through porous spots. The diagram shows a beaker full of nitrogen inverted over a porous pot containing carbon monoxide. So I want you to notice that over here they have said they have nitrogen, and over here they have carbon monoxide. So nitrogen over here, carbon monoxide over here. And since it is a porous pot, we can imagine that both gases want to diffuse in the opposite direction. And obviously their diffusion is governed by their molecular masses. So let's see, the water level does not move, which statement explains this. Now if the water level is not moving, it means that there is no pressure over here, because pressure was exerted. If the pressure was exerted, it would have resulted in some change in the water level, but there is no pressure. It means that the amount of gases coming inside is equal to the amount of gases moving outside of the porous pot. Why does it happen? It happens only when the molecular masses of the incoming gas and outgoing gas are same, so their velocities are same. When the velocity of nitrogen is equal to the velocity of carbon monoxide, only then there is no net diffusion. So there is no change in volume, no creating of pressure. So it means the two gases have equal molecular masses. Question 12 says copper is purified by electrolysis. Which statement is not correct? I want you to recall that purification by electrolysis require active electrodes. In active electrodes, the cathode increases in mass and the anode decreases in mass. Let's see the options. It says both electrodes contain copper. Yes, that is true, because impure copper is made the anode and a pure piece of a small copper is made the cathode. So A is indeed true. Copper is both oxidized and reduced in the process. Okay, sorry, they were asking for untrue statement. Yes. So it says both electrodes contain copper. That is true. Copper is both oxidized and reduced in the process. Yes. At anode there is oxidation, and at cathode there is reduction. Pure copper is deposited on the positive electrode. If you remember, positive electrode is anode, and deposition happens on the cathode. So that is wrong. We wanted the untrue statement, which is wrong, because copper deposits on the negative electrode, not at the positive one. The electrolyte is aqueous copper sulfate. Obviously it is copper sulfate. Concentrated aqueous sodium chloride is electrolyzed using inert electrodes with until no more chlorine gas is evolved. So let's recall that concentrated sodium chloride, which is aqueous, contains these ions. Since it's concentrated, chlorine would be evolved, and among sodium and hydrogen, hydrogen ions would be discharged, so hydrogen gas would be evolved. What is the remaining substance? That is sodium hydroxide, which is alkali, so the pH should be alkaline, which is 11. Ammonia can be produced industrially from nitrogen and hydrogen. The forward reaction is exothermic, which means negative enthalpy. It says which change would not alter the yield of ammonia? Adding a catalyst. Catalyst only speeds up the reaction, so it will not alter the yield. Although A is the right answer, but I'm still waiting. Decreasing the pressure. If you decrease the pressure, it will favor the right side because it has less moles. So more ammonia will be made. If you decrease the temperature, it's an exothermic reaction. It would favor the equilibrium towards the right side. So again, right side. Removing some ammonia from during the reaction, obviously it would also push the equilibrium to right side. So B, C, D are wrong. Only A for apple is the right answer. The diagram shows an energy profile diagram for a chemical reaction both with and without a catalyst. Which energy change is the activation energy for the catalyzed one? So catalyzed reactions have less activation energy. If I am not wrong, activation energies are A and B. B is the catalyzed one and A is the uncatalyzed one. So B for ball is the right answer. C represents the enthalpy of the reaction, and D represents the activation energy of reverse reaction. Often people say that D doesn't represent anything. That's not true. It represents the activation energy of the reverse reaction. Oil floats on water. Which statement is not true of oil and water? Oil and water are immiscible. Immiscible means do not mix, which is true. And they want the untrue statement. Oil is less dense than water, again true, because that is why oil is on the top of water. Some molecules in oil have a higher relative molecular mass than water. It can be true because oil is equals to saturated or unsaturated hydrocarbons. So they have higher molecular masses than water. Water has a molecular mass of only 18 units. Oil can have higher molecular mass. So again C is true. The type of bonding within water molecule is different from the type of bonding within molecules in oil. So oil and water are both covalent in nature. They may have different physical properties, but they are largely covalent. So D is not true. Why are they saying they have different? They don't have different, they have the same kind of bonding. Question 17. Which process does not involve the use of a catalyst? The extraction of iron from hematite in the blast furnace. That is the right answer. There is no catalyst over here. But let's look at other options. The manufacture of sulfur trioxide. If you remember, sulfur dioxide and oxygen react to make sulfur trioxide with vanadium 5 oxide. So B is wrong. The production of ammonia. Ammonia is made by the Haber process, which requires iron as a catalyst. Let me write just the catalyst. The redox reaction that removes combustion pollutants from car exhaust. If you remember, car exhaust has palladium, platinum or rhodium. So D is also wrong. A does not involve a catalyst. Which statement does not describe a reduction reaction? So let's see. Electrons are gained. Oh my god. So electrons are gained is definitely reduction. So like they're talking about not describe a reduction reaction. So A is wrong because A is a redox. Hydrogen is gained. If you have watched my video, there's a whole video about how gaining hydrogen is redox reaction or particularly reduction. It takes place at the negative electrode. Negative electrode is cathode. And at cathode, there is always reduction. So cathode is reduction. Oxygen is gained. Oxygen gaining is oxidation. It is not reduction. So D for doctor is not reduction. Question 19. The pH of an aqueous solution of hydrochloric acid is 2, which means it's acidic obviously. What will be the pH of the acid after the addition of 10 grams sodium chloride? Sodium chloride is a neutral salt. It does not alter the pH. So it remains at 2. It does not change. 1 mole samples of each of the solid carbonate of lead, means lead carbonate, calcium carbonate, barium carbonate, and magnesium carbonate are reacted and turned with excess dilute hydrochloric acid. Which sample of carbonate will release the greatest volume of carbon dioxide? It is a question that I've taught in A levels. It is very interesting. Imagine you have 4 beakers. So let me draw a beaker. Imagine you have 4 beakers which have dilute hydrochloric acid in them. Let me draw it like this. And imagine you have let me write it like this. Imagine you have your carbonate over here. Let me make multiple copies of this. You had 4 beakers like these. Yep. And imagine you have your own carbonates over here. This is lead carbonate. This is calcium carbonate. This is barium carbonate. And this is magnesium carbonate. All in dilute hydrochloric acid. Now one of the reaction is completed but the other 3 are not completed. Why? If you remember that when we look at these acids, they're sulfuric acids. So let me write H2SO4. If you remember, when they react with sulfuric acid, they will make lead sulfate, calcium sulfate, barium sulfate, or magnesium sulfate. Now you should notice one thing, that the first three are insoluble. Since they are insoluble, they will make a layer over here like this. They will make a layer on top because of the insoluble sulfate. Because they are making a layer, of the insoluble sulfate, the sulfuric acid will not react anymore. That is why these three reactions will not go to completion. But magnesium sulfate is soluble. And since it's soluble, the reaction will keep on happening because the sulfuric acid will keep on reacting. But in the other three cases, the sulfuric acid will not be able to react completely because of the layer of the sulfate. That is why these three reactions don't go for completion, but only D goes for completion. So magnesium reacts with sulfuric acid to go for completion. In the next video, we'll talk about the rest of the 20 MCQs of 2016 Summer Variant 2.